Welcome to this series of meditations for Good Friday around the theme, Waiting at the Foot of the Cross. From the cross, we see that Jesus, having loved his own, loved them to the end. In all our waiting, in this strange time, we pray that we will know this love, the love that keeps loving us, that keeps loving the world to the end. John's Gospel tells us that standing near the cross of Jesus were a company of women, his mother, his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. The meditations that we offer come from 5 different voices and 5 different lives, representing something of this diverse company of those who are at the foot of the cross, watching and waiting. Our testimonies and our stories are as diverse of those of the ones who witnessed Jesus dying. The impact of his death for each of us, personal as well as far-reaching. We encourage you to pause the video between each meditation to allow some minutes of space for finding your own personal response to what you have heard and seen in the accompanying images. When you are ready, return to the video and the meditation that follows. After the final meditation, there are some prayers, so do return to the video for those. When I am lifted up, says Jesus, I will draw the whole world to myself. Let us pray. We adore you, O Christ, and we bless you because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. Amen.
Waiting at the foot of the cross. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. And later in John 19. Standing near the cross of Jesus were his mother and his mother's sister, and Mary the wife of Cleopas, and Mary Magdalene. Waiting. We're getting used to waiting in these days of pandemic. Waiting for news. Waiting for good news. Waiting for the bad news. Waiting for lockdown to lift. Waiting till we can see and be with each other again. Waiting is something we're becoming familiar with the very texture of in these days. The hardest waiting of all, the waiting we are all hoping will not come near us at this time, is that of waiting for death. Waiting for death is a crucible. Perhaps you have watched alongside a loved one as they make this last journey. Death can come peacefully and be welcome. It can also be as difficult, bloody and messy as birth. We can both long for it as an end to suffering of our loved ones and dread its immense loss of their very presence at the same time. The passion of today, Good Friday, bids us come and wait in that awful liminal space between life and death. It is a hard thing to be doing, especially in these days. But perhaps we also have an invitation to enter into such painful waiting as never before. What are the depths of grief Mary, Jesus' mother, experienced as flesh of her flesh, bone of her bone, hung above her, gasping for breath, waiting, watching agony, waiting. watching life's breath ebb away. A beloved's life ebb, one whose warp and weft she'd come to know so well. Can you bring your own experiences of being close to death and even fears of it, and keep company with Mary at the foot of the cross today? We return to John's Gospel as Jesus speaks, again from the cross. When Jesus saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved standing beside her, he said to his mother, "Woman, here is your son." Then he said to the disciple, "Here is your mother." What endlessly self-giving love poured forth from the cross in the moment of death. Tenderness, concern are writ large. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. Love poured forth with every struggling breath. Can you keep company with Mary in receiving the love, concern and tenderness of Jesus towards you today? It's okay if it feels like too much to bear. Our innermost selves are rubbed raw. Let us realise, though, that as we try to keep company with Mary in this place, looking death right in the face, and bearing the weights of the self-giving love of Jesus towards us, that these are the very roots of wisdom and of life. Roots we rarely expose, but the pandemic has exposed them, and in that there is a deeply important invitation to keep company together at the foot of the cross, waiting.
John 19, verse 25. Meanwhile, standing near the cross of Jesus were his mother and his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. Wait, stay, abide, remain, pause, stop, hold, cease, be still, linger, wait. Waiting. On Good Friday, many of the people who populate the story are waiting. Away from the immediate scene of the cross, the disciples are somewhere waiting. The authorities who condemned Jesus to his death will be waiting for him to die, their problem solved. The Roman soldiers charged with crucifying criminals, and on this particular day, a man called Jesus, also wait, idling and killing time by gambling for his clothing. Then there is the knot of women who stand near the foot of the cross, waiting with the man they love as his life ebbs away. In actual fact, the two sets of people waiting by the cross, the 4 soldiers and the 4 women, form a striking visual contrast. The busy lot casting, which is distracting the soldiers from the death scene, unfolding metres away, contrasts directly with the air of stillness that seems to wrap around the women. A concentrated wait that is watchful and, I imagine, full of almost overwhelming sadness. Women waiting for an inevitable end, whilst also hoping for its delay, And yet, viewing in full a suffering they cannot reach, only watch and wonder how long it will last. And indeed, the image of the women by the cross and their watchful waiting symbolises much of the essence of Good Friday. In that final scene at the foot of the cross, we are confronted with a deep and profound pause. The women are suspended for a moment in hopelessness. For them, there is a disintegration of all that they had known and hoped for up to that point, taking place on a wooden cross next to them. They must have felt a settling of darkness and wondered if the sun would ever shine again. It's disconcerting and disquieting, but on Good Friday, we are invited into this disorientating picture to feel the heavy weight of their hopeless wait. We are called up close to the cross, to look with the four women at an image of a suffering man and to wonder what it means. We are also asked to wait. For most of us, this will probably be the strangest Holy Week we've ever experienced. But I imagine that the first one made little sense either. Then and now we are waiting with no idea how things will eventually play out. Then and now many face the disruption of certainty and hopes for the future that have been suddenly and decisively altered. But the women at the cross, even in that suspended moment when they know not what the future holds, were the only ones who were fully present in their wait. The disciples were elsewhere. The authorities who condemned Jesus had completed their business, were perhaps moving on to other matters. And the soldiers, physically near the cross and yet distracted by the discarded garments they wanted as spoils. Only the women stood fully present in the moment, engaged with Jesus, watchful of him, fully conscious of his and their own darkness. And so this Good Friday, we all wait. May we be fully present in our waiting, engaged, conscious, watchful. And so with the women in John's Gospel, I invite you to wait, stay, abide, remain, pause, stop, hold, cease, be still, linger, wait.
Last year, I went on holiday to Athens, and while I was there I bought 2 crosses, a small black one from a Russian Orthodox church, and a second one made out of nails, which came from an art and jewellery shop. Both of these remind me of the desolation and aloneness that for me are expressed in Jesus' cry from the cross, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Where he's quoting from Psalm 22, even in his pain. And this week, sections from the book of Lamentations have been some of the readings for morning prayer. 2 verses stood out for me from Lamentations chapter 3, words about God that were written after the devastating destruction of the temple and Jerusalem in 586 BCE. "You have wrapped yourself with anger and pursued us, killing us without pity. You have wrapped yourself with a cloud so that no prayer can pass through." As we look at our empty streets, the painful absence of God, a God who appears to have left us and may seem impenetrable to our prayers, may also be part of our current experience of the coronavirus. Grief and loss, anxiety and fear may overwhelm us and leave us devastated and feeling alone. Even with the arrival of spring, we are isolated by government decree, and yet may also feel spiritually isolated, unable to pray or to feel any presence of God. As a therapist, I often see the tendency that we have to try to push away painful and uncomfortable feelings and thoughts, And yet I feel it can be helpful to try to be with those agonized parts of ourselves, to be compassionate to them, to, as it were, hold them gently in our arms. In art and icon, Mary is often seen at the foot of the cross, tenderly holding the dead body of Jesus, her son. And in these difficult and challenging times, we might need to compassionately hold what might feel like devastated, desolate parts of ourselves and each other, and to be with them in their grief and isolation.
Waiting. Creation is waiting with eager longing. At the foot of the cross, it's not just the women who wait in anguish. It's not just the soldiers and the cynical onlookers who wait to see whether Elijah might come and save him. It's not just the scattered followers who wait from a safe distance. On this day, in this place of suffocating pain and death, creation itself waits. From noon onwards, darkness came over the whole land. The sky darkens as creation is caught up in this moment of the death of the one through whom all things were made. Creation waits at the foot of the cross, waits with us for our redemption, our freedom, that it too might be restored to wholeness and liberated from the death that our sin causes the earth and all that fills it might also be free to live. All is silent as the darkness descends. Midnight at noon. It's in the silence that perhaps the silent cry of the earth can be heard. The cry we are too easily deaf to. Another word for crucifixion is crisis. The crucifixion is a moment of crisis for the whole of creation, and in that sense, the time of that moment is now. The word crisis means, in medical terms, the crossroad a patient reaches, the point at which she will either take the road to recovery or to death. As a global society, we are becoming newly acquainted with death, the fragility of life and our dependence on so many delicate and hidden factors. This moment, this crisis is, in all its horror, an invitation. In our darkness, the cry of the earth and its waiting with eager longing might just be heard. The invitation is a call to a new life, to living within the delicate, interdependent global networks of life, that all would know the freedom of the children of God. Pope Francis has said of Jesus, "He does not abandon us. He does not leave us alone, for he has united himself definitively to our earth, and his love constantly impels us to find new ways forward." Creation waits at the foot of the cross. In this moment of crisis, we are being invited by Jesus on the cross to die to all that damages our life and all life, and to find through this loosing the way forward to life for all. This loosing in the cross is the heart of creation's wait for our freedom. Anyone who holds on to life just as it is destroys that life, but if you let it go, reckless in your love, you'll have it forever real and eternal, us and all creation.
Welcome to this short meditation on waiting. I'm going to read some words written in response to the current global moment, inviting us to reflect on personal, social and political themes through our prayer. I will begin by reading a few verses that will become the refrain as we continue, and will end by listening to the brothers at Taizé. But first there is the invitation to find a comfortable place to sit or stand. You might like to be outside or where you can see the sky. And then we enter a space of prayer. As I enter prayer now, I pause to be still, to breathe slowly, to feel the ground beneath my feet, to recenter my scattered senses upon the presence of God. I choose to seek God today from whatever place I am in, however I'm feeling, whatever has happened today, trusting that He hears my cry. And joining with the ancient song of ascents in the words of Psalm 130. I wait for the Lord, my soul waits, and in His word do I hope. My soul waits for the Lord, more than those who watch for the morning, yes, more than those who watch for the morning. We all of us have a lot to grieve as we move into this sacred time of Holy Week, remembering another time of grief and waiting. Many of our plans are suspended, our futures deferred, visions filed with a question mark. Contracts have been annulled, childcare cancelled. Work life is cloistered into a few hours in the bedroom while a toddler sleeps and the sun shines just out of reach. There is the news of loved ones and loved ones of loved ones struggling with ill health, being helped to breathe. Stories of funerals on screens and last moments shared remotely. And we do not know when it will end. I wait for the Lord, my soul waits, and in His word do I hope. My soul waits for the Lord, more than those who watch for the morning, yes, more than those who watch for the morning. Meanwhile, families regather for virtual quiz nights, neighbours are flyered with offers of help, solidarity groups spring into action as if we have been waiting for such a moment, ripening for now. Friends call friends they cannot see, and neighbours call one another friends. Phones are sourced for those who need connection, and nappies or groceries make their ways to the right doors. Some people take time to listen to each other, to stop in the street and talk, 2 meters apart, to those who do not ordinarily take part in their lives. Some people take time to listen to themselves, to the still small voice in the heart which has been whispering, for who knows how long. Slow down, saying, you are enough, saying, heal the earth, saying, you did well today, you made it through. I wait for the Lord, my soul waits, and in His word I do hope. My soul waits for the Lord more than those who watch for the morning, yes, more than those who watch for the morning. And grief takes other forms we cannot imagine. Someone nearby has spent all day trying to calm fretful toddlers, to appease restless teenagers, to soothe an aging mother. Someone nearby has spent all day on phone lines struggling to get basic needs met, to find out if they will have an income tomorrow. Someone nearby has been fighting all day to keep the man in the mask alive, fighting herself to stay alert on her feet. The mask has been digging into her cheek for 11 hours now, and when I get home I will have to work out what to cook for the children. I lost my job yesterday and I just found out I'm not eligible for government support. My arts house that I poured all my savings into must close down tomorrow. My daily work that is just enough to feed my family has ceased. My community does not know if it can survive. There is no safety net here. The debtors are at my door and I do not know what I can tell them. My town has been wiped off the map by the government, and the hospital will not take in my sick child, my grandmother, my baby. They have no more room. I wait for the Lord, my soul waits, and in his word I do hope. My soul waits for the Lord more than those who watch for the morning. Yes, more than those who watch for the morning. I pause for a moment and let my grief run into these other capillaries, tributaries, rivers, oceans, worlds of care. Let these other waters run too in my veins. My small life sometimes feels very small. My hands do not stretch very wide. Yet knowing myself a part of this wider web, this wider water, this meshwork of love and suffering and care, I breathe in and out. I grieve and I welcome the healing presence. I wait for the Lord, my soul waits, and in his word I do hope. My soul waits for the Lord more than those who watch for the morning. Yes, more than those who watch for the morning. Amen.
Today on Good Friday, we're going to think about the suffering of the disciples at the foot of the cross. And we're going to offer our own suffering, fear, anxiety to God. At the end of each prayer, we'll say, Lord, hear our prayer. Lord, we're at the foot of your cross. We don't understand what is happening. We cannot see your plan. We are frightened, fearful, alone, angry about the things we've lost, fearful about the future. We have to trust in you, but it is hard. We have to wait for you, but it is hard. Please look into our soul. Help us to offer this to you. Help us to wait for you. Help us with our suffering. Be with us as we wait at the foot of your cross. Lord, hear our prayer. All around us we see our friends, families suffering, hurting, being anxious. Help us to love them. Help us to support them. Show us the way. Give us hope. Be by their side. Lord, hear our prayer. Lord, all around us we see our communities, those who run businesses, those who had hopes and dreams about their future, are all suffering. Please show us how to help them and support them. Please show us all the way. Please give us hope. Lord, hear our prayer. We rest now, Lord, at the foot of the cross. We bring to you the world, our future, our hopes and dreams. We ask that over the next few weeks and months, you walk by our side, that we can keep our eyes firmly fixed on you, that we can walk together with you, and that we can wait with hope. Lord, hear our prayer.